So welcome, Susan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. This whole book publishing thing intrigues me. Do you know? And I know there's so many people out there listening that are, one day I'll write a book. Oh, yeah, I should write a book. Someone told me I should write a book. So hopefully, what we talk about today will inspire, people to get off the bench and write a book, because I do believe we've all got a book in us, at least one, and it's about making it relevant that other people are going to get something from it. So welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
Well, you are the founder and owner of Dean Publishing, and you publish books, and that's self-explanatory, but I do want to get further into that anyway and talk about what you do. But prior to that, you weren't that. You were a youth work, a life coach, and I won't spill the beans, because I think you know your history better than I do. And so tell us about, were you a bookworm when you were, and I say that in a positive way, not negative way, when you were a kid, into books, and how did your life progress that you ended up coming to found a publishing company?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I was a bookworm at school. I was probably the kid that handed their homework in on the night before, and I wasn't a bookworm, but I did like story. I clashed with my English teacher. We kind of did not get along. School was a little bit social for me, but I did like English, and I like storytelling. And there's a whole story about that. But yeah, I submitted a story once that was, the topic was given to us on the board at school. And one of them was, the alien landed in my backyard and drugs at school and stuff like that. Well, I thought, okay, drugs at school. And, I did my research as people do, and interviewed Billy up the road that I think had too many Billies, and I researched with my dad's big army book, and I wrote this story, and my English teacher literally thought I was on drugs. They checked my locker and everything, and it was just like, at that time I was devastated, because I thought I was going to get an A+, probably my first A+, and the teacher actually ripped it up and wouldn't give it back to me, and there was a whole kerfuffle. I got even suspended from school, and my dad had to go up there and say, no, I'm in the army. I gave her a book. We educate people about, everything about it, because education is key, right? And I kind of parked that writing. I did a bit of poetry in that, but I parked it. But it was a real burning thing that I love to do. I felt that story was all about change. It was about educating. It was about engaging someone. And I had a moral to this story and everything. I put my heart and soul into it. And I think that it just crushed me. That teacher crushed me. And I was always about helping people. So my stories were always that type of writing, to help people, to express. And sort of parked that, and went on, and I was always around helping people. Went on to become a youth worker, and actually did some secretarial work before that, and it was the touch typing that's probably helped me now. But other than that, I went on to a youth worker, and then was when I would tell story. I would say, I knew a girl that grew up in a family where she didn't get all the needs she wanted, but she went on and did this and that, and whatever that story would be. True life stories about, might even be, family members or people, the kids would come back and go, do you think I could do that? Do you think I could learn the guitar too, or I could play basketball? And I'd say, yeah, but it was them making that decision. And it's like, in that moment, I realized that story was so important to educate, but to actually have that person read it and go, well, maybe I could, and take ownership for that.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that progressed, and I went on to life coaching. I worked with Dr. John Gray, the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I ran life coaching workshops and relationships and coaching. And I did, and there was a lot of times I'd be coaching kids, but I think the parents needed coaching more than the kids.
Yep.
They needed to put some things in place, but I just found I was always passionate about self-development, learning, being the best you could be. But it was, it's always been that type of reading that I've done. And I wouldn't say I'm a mad bookworm, because sometimes I like a bit of an audio book, and and sometimes I like a book that's easy to read, but it's making me think.
Yeah.
So I think the progression when working with Dr. John Gray, he'd written a book. A lot of people, if they didn't know him, they definitely knew Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I went, well, gosh, that's how I need to get my word out there. So I wrote in a compilation book, and I wrote about relationships, and I would use that book or that story. So even before I wrote the book, it was always about sharing stories to make a change. But a book, is so much easier when someone's asking, what do you do? Or if they can't afford to work with you, or you kind of feel like a broken record repeating what you do, you can kind of say, hey, grab my book. I mean, for under $30, someone can get someone's knowledge. That's what I think excites me about books, except for, like, I do like to smell a new book, and I like
so do I.
But that's probably how I progressed. And then I want to help people. I was so booked out as a coach, using my book and coaching people. There was only so many people I could coach, and I was chock-a-block with clients. And I went, okay, I need to step back and see how I can help these people help more people. So that's where I thought, well, if people can have those 3 levels, if they can have a book, if they can generate, say, an online course, or then they can coach people. But even if they just leave their legacy and their knowledge in a book, I think it's so sad when people take this knowledge, that life lessons, whatever knowledge they've got, if they can get it into a book, it's how you get your message out to the masses. So it's about using it to make a difference, but to grow your business, to get your message out there. So that's the progression that I did, the long-winded story, into books, but how now it combines everything that I love, which is books and coaching and growing businesses, and people get their message and making a difference, kind of all into one. And so now I help people get the knowledge out of here into, a really good, book.
I absolutely love it. And I love that you're saying about, I hate seeing people, it's so sad, people die. Well, you didn't say these words, but you were getting there. People die, and we're all going to die, whether we like it or not. And we've got such a wealth of knowledge in our minds, that we've learned, and maybe it's stuff we've learned, we've read, we've been taught, stuff that we've experienced, like we've all got something to offer somebody else, and when you say capture it in a book, even if that book only reaches and changes one person for the better, that's freaking successful. That's a massive bloody success, because that's one whole life that you've changed, and that one life changing will have an incredible ripple effect out to so many other lives. And everybody's got something to say to somebody, like that somebody needs to hear. I love that story. And I'll tell you, you and I've got so many parallels, because when I was at school, we had to write. I didn't read books, and I was a cheat. I used to ask other people in the class, oh, yeah, and I used to make shit up.
Or find the book that's got a movie. Like, movie for the book. Like, that was a really good cheat.
That was a good tip. I used to say to the kids, oh, wasn't it good how they went? They said, no, they didn't go there. I'd say, what, didn't they? And then I used to get all their information and put it together, but that was such a cheat. But I wrote a book, English. I liked English because I liked my English teacher. And we wrote an essay on McDonald's. And I made it up about how McDonald's started. She was fascinated. And so, unlike you, I got an A+, because she was like, wow, I didn't know that's how McDonald's started. And it was absolute rubbish. But she thought, wow, that's incredible. So I had a good teacher, I think. And
good imagination.
Yeah, I've got a very good one. And when you said about ripping it up, I got to admit, I was a teacher. I was a VCAL teacher, and I taught personal development, and I was one of those teachers that tore up someone's story. However, he was writing about him being Mustafa and coming to a school with a chainsaw and chainsawing everybody up. And I just, so it's a little bit different to your story. And I thought, that, no, we're not going to have that. But I love the progression, and I love how you're combining all of what you love. And there's not that many people that have found that, that place where they can bring everything in. So I think that when we do find it, we've got to really, really be grateful for the joy that it brings into our life. Really do.
And I think that you've got to know that, follow the path of your passion and it'll all come together. I was always passionate about making a difference. So youth work was something that was making a difference. Helping young people was a passion. So I did what I was passionate about there. I then went on and did coaching and helped people around relationships, because I thought, well, if they've got good relationships with themselves and good relationships with their partners and good relationship with their kids, I always believed when our relationships are working well, so are we. So that was my passionate path. And then I went on to business because I was in different businesses, and I loved the way that you had to be innovative and you had to think about marketing and how are you going to find those people and what was your uniqueness, So then business took my passion and fancy. So I kind of delved into that, always still about learning and growing. Knowledge has always been power to me, and not the knowledge sometimes of school. I mean, who uses algebra? Don't get that one, but knowledge of, real life skills and knowledge. And I think that progressed then into, well, where is knowledge held for a lifetime or beyond your life is books. Mm. And I don't care what anyone says, a real printed book will never, ever go. They keep saying, no, they'll go. Yes, we've got ebooks. Yes, we've got, audio books. And I agree, you should have them all. You should have your book in an ebook and a physical book, but they're not going to die, those real hold in your hand books. So I think that it was a progression that I just kept following my passion. And now being like in my mid 50s, it's like, I don't need to work. I want to work and I want to do what I love. So it kind of eventuated the path. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know I was going to own a publishing house, let alone one that my adult children come back and want to work in. And we're building this, we've got a great team of 12 amazing people that are, all so busy and passionate about what they do. But I didn't know I was going to get there. I just, as you say, got off the bench, did shit, kept moving towards what I'm passionate about till it kind of all, everything I did, I loved. It's just that it all has now come together in a neat package that I'll do this for the rest of my life that I have on this earth, and my kids looks like they're going to take over, and I never even knew that was going to happen.
I love that. And I like that you're saying too, that you don't know where you're going. I always say to people, you're going to have a vision. You're going to go like, I want to do something around this, or this is my passion. You're talking about making a difference, and that's that. I feel the same about, just going back a bit, I feel the same as you, that I want to make a difference, and that's what I get up for every day. And I want to unlock the magnificence in everybody, because when I think that people are at their best, they are better contributors. So that's so aligned with what you're saying. And we can't make people make a difference unless they feel great about themselves, and then we don't have to make them; they just do it naturally. So
yeah, and that's why I think it's good to have a vision, but sometimes you don't even know what that is. No. You just got to take action. Like you say, get off the bench, do something, and eventually something else will open up, or a door will open up. Whereas if you're sitting there and you're doing nothing because you're not, you're worried about what people think, or is it going to be good enough? I mean, gosh, everything I started not knowing it all and just doing it anyway and figuring it out along the way. But you just got to take that step and that action and do something. Yeah.
100% you do. And yeah, you do. And I think it's a lot to do with feel too. You kind of feel your way. You feel what feels right. And sometimes you get hit by a closed door, and then you got to sit back and say, well, is that the door that I should be going, or do I need to put on some balls and actually go around that door? And it takes a lot, but I think we've got to keep moving. And I agree with you. Just take action, and it's often courageous action. It's not, it's not just, I'll get up today and do something. It's kind of like sometimes you got to push. But so some of the authors that you've had through there and some of the books, like you got an amazing array of incredible authors with incredible stories. And you and I both, we just realized we've both got the same book here. Gorgeous Matt Runnels, Nobody Can Save Me. And Matt was on my podcast only a few weeks ago, and what a gorgeous human, and he didn't believe he had a book. He was like, who wants to read my story? Blah, blah, blah. And then I've also got here Trav Bell's book. He's been on the podcast as well. And I agree with you. I'm not an ebook reader. I like to know where I saw it and what the page looked like and that. And you've got another book there, and the red one. That was a fascinating Real Talk, Real Change, Dr. Natasha Davidson. And you're holding that for a reason. What's the gem in that book?
Well, I think that especially in today's climate, we've had so much, so much struggles, I think, with having all the, the lockdowns and everything that we've had. We've really got to look after our mental health. And, like Matt Runnels shares his story and his struggles, personal stories are really important. There's another amazing author, Angie Klukas, who's in our Why Shift series, and they're small stories that people share. And, she reminded me when you said she just wanted to change one person's life, and she had a little boy that wasn't going to school, read her story, watched her video, and got up and went to school, is now like school captain and doing all these amazing things. And it was her story that she went, well, who's going to read it? Who's going to want to read it? If you change one person's life, you've made already that difference. And she's made a lot of difference from so many other things. But I think what also is important, that as a book, you may change someone's life, you never know, because they've been able to grab your book from a library or bookstore. But this one here is Life Strategies from a Psychologist to a Life Coach. Dr. Natasha Davidson is a psychologist, but she simplified it down into an amazing book called Real Life, Real Change. And it's Real Talk, Real Change, sorry. And it's about just steps that go in, and some fun little drawings here that really just help you. As she says here, do you feel trapped by problems and want to find a way out? Are you ready to set yourself free and live the life you were born to live? It's an amazing tool book as well. And I think that, this is why I love books. It's like, as a psychologist, how many years she has worked with so many, hundreds of clients. She is, if not, thousands. She's learned all the tools of psychology. She's gone on and learned life coaching and how to move people from where they are to where they want to go. She's got so much tools, and she can package those decades of years into this beautiful presented book that someone can pick up for under $30 and get her life knowledge. Or like Angie Klukas, who was, born where she didn't grow a normal height, and she suffered bullying, and she learned life skills herself. And now she wants to share with others that may be going through bullying so that they can overcome it. So I think that whether you're like Dr. Nat, where you've learnt through school or through working with clients, through education, through certification, or whatever that might be, or whether you're an Angie Klukas that's learnt lessons through life because of your own adversities, I think that everyone has a story and everyone has knowledge to share. And if they can package it up in a book for under $30, you can change someone's life, and everyone can afford a book or go borrow a book at a library. And I just think that, the reason that I wanted to bring up that book was, you can have all of this knowledge, and you can't help us. There's only so many clients you can help. And Dr. Nat said, I want to help millions of people. I only have this amount of time. How do I help millions of people? And that's when we said, you just need to get this knowledge in a book. And this book can change someone's life. It can save someone's life, as many of our books do. It's just about having that courage and investing in a good way of making the book readable, because that's what I think we were going to talk about. It's about making sure also that it's good content so the reader doesn't get lost or they have blocks where they're not following through. And so, you know, Matt and Trav Bell and Dr. Nat and Angie and all of our authors, we bring our books to life a little bit with the way that it's formatted to make it easy on the eye, but also engaging so that they're enjoyable to read, not, you know, get a bit boring.
Yeah, 100%. I like the smaller books like that because I'm not a big reader, but I love knowledge. I love information. I love learning, but I don't want to read 3,000. I don't want to read 50,000 words of fluff and just have two big paragraphs that mean something, you know. So I love the simplified versions, but I mean, we're all different. Some other people like to you know, read. I want to know every single background to that, and before I'll believe it. You know, some people want all that. But even if just in one book, like you say that, you know, Dr. Nat's book, I could read that and I would just find one line in there that I couldn't shake. You know, that just really, really changed my trajectory, and another person could read it and find a completely different line, and you know, there is just so much value. I absolutely love it. Have you had an author with a story that you've read their story and it's just had such an emotional impact on you?
Oh gosh, you know, there's so many, like all of our authors, even we've got people that are sharing their business success and what they did and the hard yards they got to build their business into a, you know, a global brand and things like that. But I think, you know, there's so many, but probably Angie Klukas has stood out as a great story, overcoming adversity with bullying and just her courage to, you know, to just share her story. She said, who wants to read my story? Like I live in Darwin, I work at an aviation center, and who wants to read my story? But the impact she's already had on so many people's lives. You know, Matt Reynolds, you know, him being so vulnerable and sharing like really personal stuff out there to help others, to make it about them, not him. You know, Erica Kramer is another one. Confidence Feels Like Shit is her book. And, you know, her story of having, you know, being brought up by a bipolar mum who was unmedicated at one stage, and she was walking and kind of not being looked after at that stage. But her mum, you know, it was her medical condition, and how she's got a beautiful relationship with her mum, and just so many stories. I don't know that I can pick one. It's kind of like saying, who's your favorite child? No,
come on, you've got one.
No, everyone says that, but it's like at the moment my younger daughter's given me a granddaughter, so she's kind of a favorite at the moment. But then my other daughter's just moved into a beautiful house in Port Melbourne, so I kind of got a spare bedroom, so they're on par a little bit at the moment. But yeah, no, I just can't really look. Even gosh, as I'm looking there, even Jess Van Zyl, you know, she was diagnosed at you know, gosh, I think she was only about 18 with cancer in the eye and lost her eye, and they couldn't even put a false eye in, so she then designed some really cool funky patches to wear around, and now she's married, and I've got to be on that journey with her. So I really get to know our authors, and they become a bit like our family. So yeah, just too many stories. You have to check out deanpublishing.com and check out all the books, because they're all very unique and amazing in their own way.
Yeah, and like we say, if that one story hits one person and changes something, that's fantastic. But there's a lot of people who do think nobody wants to hear my story, you know, and I think that we never see it from our own perspective. We kind of live through it, you know, and we're kind of like, that's just my life, you know, there's nothing exciting about that, nothing. But then other people will hear your story and think, holy shit, how did you get through that? You know, I want to know how you got through that, because I know someone, or like I've felt like that myself, and I didn't know how to get through it. And I think that
I think what's really important and a good question to ask, there's always somebody else that will be going through something similar, or maybe they just go, gosh, if she could get through that or he could get through that, then I could get through it. So I think what's really important is sometimes to ask yourself when you've gone through, and it doesn't even have to be a crazy story. I mean, we've got some really good stories coming up that will, that you kind of go, really, you lived through that? A girl that's lived in literally with no electricity, like here in Australia, and had to throw stones at wild dogs before she got home, and just crazy stories that are being shared. But it doesn't need to be that. It could just simply be that you've overcome something, because I always say, go back to when it was the darkest, hardest time of your life, or maybe you've overcome something in business. It could be health, wealth, finances, anything that you've gone through, because we've all gone through some type of adversity, or maybe it's a positive learning you've had. Imagine that usually that person's had to get through it themselves. So imagine if you could take yourself back to that age that you went through that, or that time that you went through it, and you could just pick up a nice, easy to read story that had some tools and techniques in it that could help you. What would that have been like for you? So you could be that person for somebody else. There was always somebody else that may be being challenged from something coming up. I know that another gentleman we had in our Why Shift book, lost his son, who took his own life at such a young age. And he shared courageously his story, because if he could just share that story to somebody that could save a life, that could make people understand more what it was like, or how they could reach out, so I think that, and he learned what he had to do to overcome this, to not just survive, but eventually thrive after such a tragedy.
Wow.
So how do you share that so somebody else can learn from what you've been through, to give them an easier go, an easier maybe awesome tools that you've figured out that you could help someone else with. So every story matters, and everyone has a story in them that could change someone's life.
I hope people are listening to this and really start to trigger and think, oh, yeah, I have. And it's almost, I'm not going to say this in a harsh way, but, think about it like this, and then take the harshness off and think that I'm saying it with empathy. It's almost selfish to keep that in you. It's kind of like, well, I'm not going to share my story, but what if your story could change somebody's life? There's almost a selfish element.
No, you know what? I have to agree from a place of love. I think it's selfish, because, it's a bit like you said before. If what are it's inevitable, right? We're all only here for a certain amount of time. Whether you believe that we reincarnated, whether you believe you come back, whether you believe our souls are, as we know it in this life with these lessons, we've got one of them. If we don't leave our legacy behind, if we don't leave our lessons behind, then what was the point of all that struggle? What did we need to learn in this lifetime now? And why would we not leave that knowledge in a book and leave it here for history, for people to learn? We've got old books, times have changed, man. Like, we're a very, multicultural, very, open community. What are those books that weren't written decades ago that need to be written today for the up and coming people that are even more, needing our knowledge? What are we doing when we're not being those people that are leaving our legacy and our lessons in there for who are going to come after us, that need this knowledge, that may not have a parent that they could talk to, may not have someone that they can talk to, but they can surely borrow a book from a library. They can surely jump on Amazon that no one knows about and buy that book to get that knowledge, to then maybe have that courage to come out and talk about what it is that they're struggling with. So I do think it's selfish for people to keep their knowledge in their head. And I do feel that, what are we on this earth for, other than to learn and leave that legacy and that lessons for others to learn from?
Yeah, I agree. There's a great Randy Travis song. Oh, it's called Three Wooden Crosses. And the line in there, and I can never shake this. And this is what I'm saying about, sometimes there's a line that grabs you. And it goes, it's not what we take when we leave this world behind us. It's what we leave behind us when we go. And I'll never forget hearing that for the first time. And it's such a hit on legacy. It's like you can't take everything. So focus your whole life on what you can leave. And I'll tell you what, from that's what I get up for every single freaking day, is how can I make a difference? And it makes a difference to your life. Like, you can say, oh yeah, but you're constantly burnt out, you're constantly wearing out trying to leave things for everyone else. What about living your own life? But when you're doing that stuff, you are living your own, you come to life. Like
you're spot on. You come to life. You've got a purpose and a reason, and it's a purpose and a reason. It makes you live. It makes you come alive. And, absolutely, and you can't take your money with you, and you can't do everything for yourself. At the end of the day, when, I believe when you're giving, you're getting back anyway. You always are. You're not doing it in order to get back, but you do by default.
I totally agree. And you don't do it. And if you are doing it to get something back, you're a shithead. Stop doing it. But anyway, so what's the difference between, of course you're going to be biased, but that's okay. We want to hear your side of it because it's your show. What's the difference between self-publishing and publishing through a publishing house?
Look, I suppose I'm being biased only because I say if you're going to do something, do it well. But I would like to, because we're not for everybody. So I'd like to open it up to, what people are looking for. If you're wanting to just, write a book and get it out to your family and friends and things like that, and it's not something that you're really looking at from a business perspective, you maybe not be a coach or a business owner, or an influencer that this is your whole journey that you just want to share. I think sometimes getting in a compilation book is good, like just a short story. We've got a compilation series called Y Shift, the letter Y Shift.
Yeah.
And that stands for Your Share It Forward Teachings.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that compilation book, we're just about to launch a book on health. It has categories like health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, mindset, and they're all just short stories that help you get your story out there. And that's a lower investment type thing, and you're just wanting to start smaller. If you want to self-publish, yes, you've got to go out, a bit like building a house. You've got to find yourself a good editor, find a formatter, get your book up there. There's print-on-demand platforms now that you can do all that with that weren't around years ago. That is an availability. But if you're serious about doing it well, where you really want your book, and it's not just about, look, we just had a client sell over 7,000, copies, and, they've got a good return, but it wasn't about, yes, that person wanted to help more people that couldn't get access to them, to sell them something that's, you can get a book for under $50 and right down to an ebook worth $9.99. So anyone can afford your knowledge. So I think it's important to do it in a physical book, an ebook, and so forth. So there is that lower cost, either being in a compilation or self-publishing. Then what we are is, I suppose traditional publishing, I'll brief on that. That is when you've got maybe a literary agent that will take your book, and you may be someone that's a little bit more influential, or you've got a lot of followers, or you're someone famous and things like that. And even then, a traditional publisher always bases their books, manuscripts that they take on, if they're going to sell a lot of copies, because their only goal is, do I sell copies? And just so people know, when you get a traditional publisher, if you're lucky enough to get an advance, it might be 5,000 if you're lucky enough. to be accepted first and then paid in advance. That advance is for advanced sales copies, right? So it's not until you've sold so many copies of your commission before you'd get paid again. And let me just say, you're lucky to get $2-3 a book. That's what happens. So you've got to sell a lot of books to even break even, and they've got to kind of go, well, I'll sell 5,000-10,000 books. But you're giving the majority of the say to them. You don't get a say on what's in and out of it. So if you've got something that you really want to say that means a lot, if they don't want it in there, they can pull it out, they can decide. And then when you want to buy copies, you've got to buy it off the traditional publisher.
Yeah.
Then where we are is we're somewhere in the middle. So we're quality of traditional publishing. We've got expert publishers in-house. They're all in-house. So we've got designers, we've got copy editors, we've got creative writers, we've got ghostwriters, we've got editors that can do it in US and Australian. We can translate into different languages. We can index properly. We can reference properly, so it's not going to come back and bite you in the bum. Because people think, it's on the internet, I can put that in. Can't I use that? No. Hay House owns that. You're going to get sued, or you're going to have to drop down your book. So it's about making sure that you've got all those know-hows around publishing, so it doesn't come back and bite you in the bum as well, where they can come back and say, hey, how much did you make from your book? You got to pay me because you've been using some of my content that's copyright to Hay House or whatever it be. So just because a quote's on there, some quotes you can use, some you can't. So we've got the knowledge to know what you can and you can't. Erica was a classic. We did her book and she had things in there that she thought she could use, and we're like, you can't. And she'd had hers ghostwritten, copy edited. So we have all different people that come in and they've got it what they thought was ready to publish, and it's not at that caliber. So the other thing is, as you said before, no one wants to read a book of waffle. You may be really good at what you do, but you may not be that specialist editor. So when you're writing, how do you use the team to take your beautiful words, but how do we take them to that next level? So the reader's sitting on the edge of their seat. We've culled all the waffle and brought it down to succinct, really readable. We're also the go-to between the reader and the author. If you're saying, I moved here, we're like, the reader's going to get lost. Their mind's now going, where did she go? What did she do? Yeah. So we'll fill in the gaps to make sure that the book is a compact read, but it's jam-packed where they just want to get to the next chapter and the next chapter, even if it is like a non-fiction. We want to make it interesting, yeah? So and plus then we look at distribution. So it's also about not only getting on Amazon separately, so you get a higher return on investment there, but all your distribution, your Angus and Robinson, your library, getting it into some bookstores and things like that. So I think that it's about that, and then it's also working with, yes, I'm biased in the way of working with our team because we're not just a publisher, we're also entrepreneurs. So I'll talk about how do you use that book to grow you as, how do you go from unknown to known? How do you grow it to your coaching business or whatever business you're doing? So I always look at it like an owner builder. You can go and figure out and go and find yourself and hope that the designer understands what the editor's written, or you can come with us like a builder where we've got all the team, they're all going to align, the plumber's going to arrive after the electrician type thing,
Oh, you're more organised.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that. It's kind of like building your book, but we've got a full professional team that are working with you to make sure the book is your voice, your message, but we just tweak it, make it amazing, and then distribute it out to the world.
I love that. How does ghostwriting work? Because I know that I've had people say, I don't know, what is a ghostwriter? And I said, well, they write the book for you, but you got to give them the info. I don't know. So what would...
So ghostwriting can be just what it is that we don't need to be brilliant writers. We've just got the knowledge. So sometimes our authors will talk out what they know and they'll share their story. And so the ghostwriters will just more try and put their words from their verbal into something that is then readable as written text, because verbal and written are very different, and they need to have some creative words in there, and they need to have some words that land as a written versus a spoken. Yeah. So some of our authors, if they choose, we can just work with them where they talk it out and we help write up what it is that they're trying to express.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love it. So I reckon that you've inspired a lot of people to say, well, maybe I have got a book, maybe I have got a book. And I love the compilation. Is that open to, how do you qualify for the compilation? Because I do know a lot of people who'd be sitting listening thinking, oh, I've wanted to write stories, and I do write short stories and I never do anything with them. So how would you qualify to be a part of that book?
Well, a lot of who we work with is people that want to write a book that does make a difference. They're sharing something that makes a difference. Even we're doing a couple of cookbooks that have come through, but they're still helping people to be able to cook better and things like that. We don't, we've done one or two fiction books but they were books about different cultures, and they were still, had that moral and that teaching. So I think with the Why Shift, we've got lots of categories. So you might have a story like Angie, in our resilience book, which was under the mindset category, and she talked about bullying, or Andrew, who talked about losing his son, who took his own life. There's lots of short stories that have that moral or have that share. Yeah. So they just reach out to deanpublishing.com and jump on and book an expert call, because what we also do with that is we show people how they can kind of start like their own little thing. We've got like a journal that they get and some cards that are all about shifting your mindset and your health and wealth that they can have as part of the package and start selling them. So it's a real good starting point for people, or if people just want to use it as a way to give back, or as a lead gen for their business and their coaching and that as well, or their podcasts and different things like that. The other thing that we do, so they just reach out to deanpublishing.com and book in a call, and then, just say interested in the Why Shift series, and we can definitely have a conversation about that. The one thing I did also want to add in is that you talked before about, sometimes we like a book, we don't like it really big, and sometimes we like ebooks and audio books and things like that. What's also unique to Dean Publishing is that we have an interactive book. And I think what's really important about that, and that's exclusive to us, is we bring our books to life. Because what I did find is that it's all and well to have a book and a beautiful book and see the beautiful picture of the author on the back, but I want to connect. I wanted to be able to allow the reader to connect with the author. Yeah. And so inside our books, we can put, really good podcast episodes that land with what you're talking about. I know that Erica did that in her book. When she talked about something, she goes, I know the podcast series I did for that. So the link is in it and they get to listen to the podcast, and then it helps them subscribe, for example. Yeah. So it helps more people. We can put video in there. They can write notes. They can highlight things. Some people don't like to write in a book. You can highlight it and write in your interactive book. So you can put audio, visual, people like that auditory, kinesthetic, visual type interaction. And so we developed the Dean Library, which is a downloadable app, so people can bring their books to life on their phone and watch video instead of getting lost on YouTube. And you can now talk directly to the readers and have that, that connection that is very sometimes hard to do in a physical book. Yeah. We now have the interactive book that allows people to really connect with the author on another level.
That's fantastic. Because there's nothing like that, is there? Once you see
there is nothing like that in this publishing industry. I mean, they do have, school books sometimes and different things like that, but this is just something that we did because I want the reader to connect with the author. And sometimes there's things that can be said and tonality that can be done in a video versus in written text. So sometimes you might want to elaborate a little bit more on what you were trying to say. So the book doesn't need to be really big, but now they can jump on and they can have you elaborate on what it is that you were trying to say in written form.
Yeah. God, I love that. I love your passion too, actually.
I know. Do you kind of figure that I love what I do?
Yes. But it's so refreshing. And this is why I think people need to find what they love, and do what they love, because you want to be around people who love what they do. Like there's something about the energy of when someone loves what they do, you just want to be there. You just want to be, immersed in that.
I call it my obsession. I'll be in the shower going, I know what I can tell that author that they can do, or I know what we can do in that interactive book. We can have a download that they can, print out on their printer, and hey, let's do a download for the kids, and they color it in. So my mind's always going, I call it like an obsession, but I am obsessed with what I do, but I love it. And I don't look at work-life balance. I look at lifestyle balance. If I want to take the morning off and take my grandchild swimming, I can. If I want to work at 11 o'clock at night because I've got this buzz of energy and my creativeness is going mad, that's what I do. So I don't have work-life balance start at this time. I have lifestyle balance. And so, a bit obsessed with what I'm doing, but because I'm passionate about it. Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I'm passionate and I'm obsessed with what I do too. And I just, I agree with you. You can't, sometimes 11 o'clock at night, you're like, oh shit. I do. And I get my little otter out in bed. I sneak, and my partner's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I just got a brilliant
just say I'm talking in my sleep.
I'm usually awake at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, oh, I've got to get up and write that. I've got to get up and write that down. And then I lie there, and then the cat gets in. I'm like, oh shit, now I've got to be nice to the cat, but I want to get up and do it. I love it. Well, I love your passion. Now, you are also, like, apart from your you're passionate about your books, you're passionate about all this publishing and that, but your greater passion is making a difference, and that's just drives you like mad. But you've got you are part of the B1G1, I don't know if I'm going to call it initiative, and you've got the book that is on your website that you've published, Better Business, Better Life, Better Way, Better World, and there's also the legacy book, and this is about from money you make, investing it into impacts and making a difference in the world. And I was just looking at your website before, and you've made over 66,800 plus impacts with, like for kids in Cambodia and all sorts of stuff. So tell us more about that, because most of us are altruistic. Most of us want to give back and do well. And tell us what you're doing, because I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So an amazing couple, Paul Dunn and Masami Sato, are the creators of B1G1, which is about buy one, give one. Yeah. And it's about business for good. So every time somebody, buys the legacy book or the Better Business book, then we donate to an impact. Now, an impact, what I love about B1G1, and I've been over to Africa and built mud huts and visited a lot of the places that that you donate to that make an impact, and Hands Across the Water and different things like that. Mm-hmm. What I love about B1G1 is, one, they're very, very strict on who they let in as the people that you donate to. So they go through their books. They must be open books. They must be a full charity that is not where your 100% of the profits are going to the cause that they're promoting. Yeah. So I know that that's really important to me, that they've been, absolutely checked out, so that when my money's going, if I'm giving, even if it's $20, I want to know $20 is going there, not $2, So I think it's really important. That was the one thing that was important, and B1G1 meets those needs. The second thing was something that touches, moves, and inspires me. If I want to give back, I want to give something back to children. I really love children, helping the children that may not through fault of their own, not have, they may have to live in cared facilities, or they may live in poverty and they need some hands. So, to that was important, and supplying books and things to schools, and that was important. So I got to choose some things that are important to me. And so there's so many different varieties there. There's, animal shelter, even they got involved in the fires that happened in Victoria. And so they're always innovatively looking for charities that are good, that you can donate to, but it's an impact. You can give it $2. You can give $1 that might give water to a child for a day or feed a family. You know, it doesn't need to be big. The good thing about B1G1 is you can start small, and as you grow, you can give more and more. And it's just about giving back a little bit each time. And so that's what was really important to me. And so every time someone signs up, we give back to impacts. Like we give a good chunk to an impact. We give a percentage. Then if we sell a book, we give 100% profits from any book bought from Legacy or B1G1, because it's their books, back to a charity. There's other ways you can do it. You could be, I know coffee shops that every time someone buys a coffee, they donate 10 cents. Yeah. 10 cents might not seem a lot, but 10 cents can make a huge difference when those 10 cents all add up. So all these businesses are all giving little bits, and it adds up to making a huge impact in people's lives, kids' lives, animals' lives all around the world. So it's really it's giving back, and that's at the core of everything that I do. And I think people writing their stories is giving back as well, because they're sharing their knowledge, they're giving to the world. So everything is called around that giving back in some way, shape or form. But yeah, B1G1, check them out. Definitely b1g1.com. The letter 1 is the way to go. And yeah, they're just a good charity that I like. And Hands Across the Water or another charity that is great, that is an orphanage started from the Boxing Day tsunami in 2004 and has built, and now they look after children all throughout Thailand.
I absolutely love that. I just can any business donate? Like, do you have to sign up as a?
Yes. So check out b1g1.com. You know, say Susan sent you. Susan Dean sent you. I possibly have a link that I can probably share with you that you can put in for the listeners to jump on and register. And yes, any business can join, and you're amongst some amazing businesses, and any little bit is okay. Like, it doesn't need to be a lot. So yeah, I can definitely send you through a link, and you can put that in for your listeners, that they can jump on and check it out, and that will go directly through as a referral from me through to Paul and Masami.
Oh, I love it. I just think, I was just saying to someone on LinkedIn the other day, which is separate to what you're saying, but it's a similar thing, is that I believe that every single person should give $1 a week from their pay to a charity of their choice. And if you just think in Australia alone, and, people might say, oh, God, geez, Karen, you stop forcing your opinion, but nobody misses $1. Well, most people are not going to miss $1. And there's 12.5 million people working in Australia, and that would be $12.5 million every single week that would go to a charity. Now, that's not even including overseas, but I'm just saying, if we had that mentality that we just gave the smallest amount, and if every single person just gave the tiniest amount that they didn't even notice, can you imagine the shift in the world? Can you just imagine?
And that's where Masami came from. Masami said, if every person just gave a small amount, and that's what this gives you the opportunity to do, is a very small amount, it can be $1 a week that you give, that makes a huge impact. And if we all did that together, we could really make a difference. And so, definitely check them out, and any charity at all, but they're a good place to start, where it's all also tracked for you, which is really good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we can't wait for the governments and the world leaders, and I call them leaders, buddy, very loosely, but we can't wait for them to change the world, and nor are they going to, because that's not their key interest. And I think that if everybody doesn't have to be through donation, but just talking to you, what you're about, what I'm about, just giving back, being kind, making a better world. If everybody just did that one little tiny bit better and believed that their footprint is joining onto all the other footprints and is making a difference. Can you imagine the world? And that's how we have to do it. We have to do it from the people. Like, all of us have to just put our best foot forward, and that's where change is made. And it's like you're saying, it's so simple and it's so cheap, and it's so there's little effort in changing the world.
And that's why, yeah, I think just people getting on to podcasts, getting onto social, sharing themselves. Yeah. If you're worried about what people think of you, then you're making it about yourself. Get off that and give from a place of giving, and people won't, you'll get judges, you'll get haters, you'll get, but ignore those and focus on that you're doing it for others. When you're doing it for others, you don't really give a hoot of what you're doing, because you don't give a shit, you don't give a F, you don't give nothing, right? At the end of the day, you're doing it for others. That's why I say, does your story matter? Yes. Tell it, share it on socials, talk about it, write it in a book, get it out there, make that difference. That doesn't cost you anything but maybe some of your time. If you want to invest further in a professional book, yes, there will be investment, but where do you want to take this? How big do you want to go? But just do something,
Yep, 100%. Oh, I love it. All right, what's your best advice for people to get off the bench?
Best advice.
I think you might have just done it, actually.
A bunch. I probably did. Just do something, some action at all. It's that one step that'll take you to 2, 3, 4 steps. Do one thing. It could be just standing in line and smiling at someone. It can be that little. Just do something. But if you really want to make a huge impact in the world, invest in yourself, invest in your message, and just get it out there in all formats that you possibly can. And obviously, if it's a book, come and see us and we'll make sure that we do a good job for you.
I absolutely love it. Well, I have loved this conversation. And speaking about people coming to you, where are they going to find you?
If they just go to deanpublishing.com, and there'll be a button there with expert call, and they can jump on a call with me.
Fantastic. And Susan Dean is also Susan Dean book publisher on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram. So if you go and follow and just, start to, even if you're not game yet, to contact, keep an eye, follow, watch the books that come through, watch the messages that come through, start to feel it in your heart, I really, this is inspiring me. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And eventually, reach out. And it's, I agree with you so much. We've all got something in us that somebody else needs to hear, and it's selfish to keep it in. And why wouldn't we want to make the world better for somebody else? Why wouldn't we want to do that? So
leave that legacy, leave that knowledge for somebody else to learn from. Thanks so much.
Well, I've absolutely loved this. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. Thanks for your time. It's been truly wonderful. And there's been so many learning opportunities in this podcast, learning about the books and learning about how to do it. But the key overarching thing is just the theme of giving back and making a better world. And I just have absolutely loved having you on. Absolutely loved it.
Thanks so much for having me. I love what you're doing too, just getting people off the bench and just taking action. So thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ta-da.